Hi, it's Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy. So, what kind of e-bike should I buy? I've actually been debating this and looking at e-bike choices over the last few weeks, and I gotta tell you, every day there's a new great e-bike that's being put out somewhere, and I think it's almost a little confusing. It's overwhelming. If you really are somebody that wants to do the research and find like the perfect bike, there's a lot of choices out there. So obviously, I can't tell you what bike to buy. But if you're just sort of beginning the process and you want to find out, so what do I need to think about in terms of buying an e-bike? I have some thoughts on that. I think it might be helpful. Um, Remember, the first thing is you want to make sure you're buying a bicycle. And remember, in Florida, as of April of last year, I think it is, Florida codified our bicycle statute so that an electric bicycle, if it meets three criteria, is a bicycle. And that's important because if you are ever in a crash, you want the uninsured motorist on your auto policy to apply, and it applies to you if you're riding a bicycle, not if you're riding an electric motorcycle or something else potentially. Bicycles don't require driver's license. They don't require a tag, a licensing for the vehicle. So just keep that in mind. Remember, there's three categories in Florida. You have pedal assisted up to 20 miles per hour, or pedal or throttle only up to 20 miles per hour, or pedal assisted up to 28 miles per hour. It's those category 1, 2, or 3 e-bike in Florida. All are considered to be a bicycle. So keep that in mind. The next thing is, like, where do you begin to look for an e-bike? I'd like, and I think you have to decide first off, how much money do you want to spend? Just like everything else, the more money you spend, the better components. Generally, the lighter the weight. Generally, more advanced things to make the riding experience a little bit more pleasurable. There are a ton of e-bikes out there for $1,000 or less, in that range. Some of the e-bikes, generally the lowest price e-bikes are going to be from China. And the issue with them, if you're ordering some of these things online, is can you get a part for it if you need it? I've mentioned once before, had someone that I know that had a very nice, cool Chinese e-bike, got slightly hit by a vehicle, dented the rear wheel, so it was out of true, and it trashed the bike because they couldn't order the part. So it was only a $70 part, from what I understand, and it rendered the bike useless. So you don't want that to happen. Or you buy the inexpensive bike and you ride it until it breaks, and you buy another e-bike. So that's also an option. So there are a lot of choices in the $1,000 range. Sort of a mid-range of $1,000 is the $1,500 sweet spot. Rad power bikes on the West Coast probably have that market. They're most known for that market. They've got a number of great bikes, and they're really rated well. I like the people over at Electrek, Eletrek. They do reviews on bicycles. Michael Toa, and Micah Toa. They really like the Rad Power bike. It doesn't have high-end components, but overall they give it a great rating. And they advertise a lot, and you have a lot of choices in the $1,500 range. But then you move into the $2,000 range. It used to be that under $2,000 you had inferior product, and over $2,000 you had a superior product in the e-bike world. I think that's sort of blending together these days. There are a lot of choices in the $2,000 range. When you hit $3,000, you really start getting good components, good reviews, good ride quality. You have an opportunity to reduce the weight of the bike. And then when you get above $4,000, you start having a lot of choices of high-end, great riding bikes from dealers and other people who are selling these things, where you can get it serviced and taken care of. So next is, like, are you comfortable ordering an e-bike online? And when it comes, if you do that, it's going to be shipped to your house. You need to know exactly what you need to do to put it together. Some e-bikes require assembly, a lot of assembly. Some come where you do virtually nothing other than maybe put the pedals on. I wrote an article about Michael Toa at Electric wrote about the Priority Embark, which is a $4,000 bike, and they actually deliver it to your house with what they call a white glove service. They bring it, set it up, what have you. That's unusual, but it's also $4,000 bike. Weight is an issue that you have to take into consideration. Generally, the more expensive the bike, you have some options about getting less weight, you know. And I've even gotten into the carbon bikes. Those really get higher end. But generally, e-bikes are going to be in the range of about 35 or 40 pounds to around 55, 65, 70 pounds on the higher end in terms of weight. I generally, in my experience of riding them, they tend to ride when you're under power, like the weight's irrelevant. But like everything in this world, sometimes you run out of battery or something breaks and it doesn't work and you got to pedal the sucker home. I'd much rather pedal a 40-pound e-bike home than a 70-pound e-bike home. Just something to keep in mind. And also, like, if you are, how are you going to transport it? Are you going to take it in your car or put it on a rack to transport it from place to place? If it's 70 pounds, it's a lot more difficult than if it's 35 or 40 pounds. And do you want to pay for the difference? I think those are serious considerations. I know my friend from California, Clint, said, you know, Jim, like everything that's made for people to use, they're going to break from time to time, and let people not overlook the fact that an e-bike at some point may fail you and you have to get it repaired, and you may be 25 miles from home when that happens. How much distance do you intend to ride your bike? There's it's a pretty wide range of variance on the battery life of an e-bike, depending on how much throttle you use. Whether you're very little throttle, you're going to ride further on a battery charge. If you're riding full throttle mode, you're going to cut that significantly, especially if you're going up and down hills or over bridges or what have you in our area. But you know, those e-bikes are going to generally be in the range of about 20, 25 miles on the low end to, I've seen as high as 50 or 60 miles on the high end. So that's something to keep in mind how much you want to ride the bike. I've seen some companies will actually supply two different batteries, one for more extended use and one for less extended use. It's something to keep in mind. Remember, when you're looking at the weight of an e-bike, whether you're looking at it with a battery or without the battery, because the battery is going to add probably 7 to 10 pounds of weight to the bike. How long does it take to charge? Some are really fast at 2.5 or 3 hours. Others are 6 hours. That may be a factor for you. You have some tech issues about e-bikes. You know, there's two main configurations of e-bikes. You have MidDrives, where the motor is where the pedals are in the crank in the center of the bike. And you have HubDrives, where the motor is in the rear hub. Typically, they can be in the front, but most of the ones that we see advertised are rear hub drive motor. And a lot of very good e-bikes are in both categories. Some people really prefer and think that the MidDrive is preferable over the HubDrive. HubDrives have been around for a long time. They typically are a little bit less expensive to purchase and manufacture, so they tend to hold the cost down a little bit. So you don't usually see MidDrives until you reach at least $3,000 typically, and then into the $4,000 and above when you get a MidDrive. They do equal out the balance on the bike because you have more weight in the center of the bike when you have a MidDrive. But I think people are going to have preferences one over the other. I mentioned in an article I wrote that I was at a bike shop having some work done on my bike, and the guy mentioned that if somebody brings in an inexpensive Chinese e-bike with a HubDrive, he won't even take it off and change the tire if they have a flat. They're concerned that there's a connection between the motor and that hub, and if you break the connection inadvertently trying to make a change of the tire, he said, you know, I don't want to be responsible for replacing this e-bike. Just something to keep in mind, you know. Getting it serviced and how easily that can be done and how confident you are you can do it yourself. And I think there's something to talk to the bike people about that you're ordering from. You know, I think that I have gotten a lot of information just looking at reviews on bikes. I've mentioned Electric, which I love their website. I love they do video reviews and written reviews. Bicycling.com has done reviews. I think there's a lot of people now coming out with, you know, the best e-bikes for 2019 and 2020 and that kind of thing. Bicycling.com has always got information on e-bikes. There's electricbikereviews.com, which I've seen and enjoyed their reviews as well. Cycling Weekly does e-bike reviews. Wired, which is generally a kind of a business type magazine, does e-bike reviews. Consumer Reports. I saw one recently from Consumer Reports, and they did a really nice job of breaking down the MidDrive motor from the hub motor and some of the other considerations that we have to consider when we're buying a bike. There's Lux Digital, L-U-X-E Digital. They do bike review. Bike Ride does them, and also byways.org done them. These are just some of the people that I've seen that have bike reviews out there. And I think anything you read is helpful to kind of increase your knowledge base and make some decisions about what you want. So, I think the advantage of e-bikes are they're so much fun to ride. Everybody talks about how much fun they are to ride. And they come in the configuration, so many of them come with wider tires, so they can go in a wider variety of locations from gravel to strictly off-road. And of course, they're all niched out as well. They have e-bikes for road riding. They have e-bikes for commuters. They have e-bikes for transportation, putting your kids on them. They put 2 or 3 kids on the back, 100 pounds of gear. They have those out there. I've seen carts on the back, like for hauling debris and what have you on e-bikes. They have one for every purpose that you can imagine. So I think it's a matter for me, it's like, how much do I want to spend? And now what is the best I can get within that price range? If you really want to get some quality, I think you're going to be generally at around 3,000 or above in terms of the higher end components, hydraulic disc brakes rather than mechanical, the components that go on the bike in terms, they all come with a digital readout. They all generally have built-in lights front and back, which is a real advantage over some of the bikes we're buying, because you can put $200 pretty easily into a light package. So those are the big issues for me. And I think that ultimately it's so helpful, to walk into a dealer's location and see 10 e-bikes that you can try and talk and get a handle on. Otherwise, you're pretty much, if you're not dealing with a dealer, whether it's a major manufacturer like Trek or Specialized or Giant or what have you, there's people, like Phil down in Punta Gorda with Pedelec, and, he's just an e-bike dealer, and there's a lot of guys around like that. So the advantage is that you can go in and try a bike. You can talk to them about the pluses and minuses of it. And you know that if the bike breaks, where you can take it to get it serviced. You start ordering a bike, even from one of these great companies. There's some really good e-bike companies, but they may be in California or Canada or what have you, and you have the issue of service. They may not have a dealer network. And if you're someone who's really not handy, you're really going to be tied down to whatever that dealer network would be, or whoever's going to replace it or repair it for you. So those are my thoughts. I'll keep you posted on what I end up doing. Somebody, thank you very much, said I was too young to get an e-bike. I'm not getting it because I want to make an easier ride. I'm getting it because I think they're just cool. I'm going to get one that my wife would really enjoy riding it. I think it would enhance our riding experience together. My good friend Paul Gagnon down in Venice, he rides 50 miles in the morning and then rides his e-bike 50 miles in the afternoon just for fun. So, I think that's the e-bike experience, and I think that's what I'm looking for as well. And I know a lot of people are. There's a lot of people that are riding these things effectively every day. There's on my usual ride, I see this nice lady who is no spring chicken, and she's riding along at 18 or 20 miles per hour, very simply moving along. Looks effortless. She's in an upright position. It's just a cool experience. So let me know if you have questions about e-bikes. I'd be curious about people's experience in buying an e-bike, using it, getting it serviced, problems you run into, the good, the negative. We're working on putting together an e-bike guide. Katie and our team are working to put together some information on buying an e-bike and where you can buy them, and kind of the choices, and I'll probably condense some of the things I've talked about here into some type of a buyer's guide, which I hope will be useful and people will request and get some information out of it. So I'm Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy. I'm here for you. If you've been injured on a bike crash or in a car accident anywhere in Florida, I'm a phone call away. Don't hesitate to let me know how I can do it, what I can do to help you. I look forward to seeing you next time, and let's decide what kind of e-bike we need to buy. Okay, take care. Bye.